Thank you, Mustafa. Am I live here? Very wise people in voting. You should be against the motion. I could talk about this topic all day. Don't get afraid. I won't. I'll try to stay under our 6 minutes. But it is a very timely topic. If you look at what's happening this week, with the UN climate talks in Durban, South Africa, countries are meeting from all over the world to try to figure out what's the next phase of dealing with carbon emissions. And I think it's in this context that Ukraine also needs to think about its investment in green energy. And the point about being too poor to invest really needs to be looked at from the perspective of dealing with environmental challenges. And in dealing with these environmental challenges, I make no mistake I don't undervalue the importance of what's happening in the world, what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years. The financial and fiscal landscape of every country has changed. However, the answer to this question must take into consideration a number of different issues, and that is the future of Ukraine and the future of Ukrainian generations to follow. It's an evaluation of where your development and opportunities will be that you provide to your population. It's an evaluation of where you want to be economically and developmentally. And it's also an evaluation of the strategy that should be developed to get there. The goal should be about empowerment. You cannot empower your population without energy, without electricity. That's not debatable. And the choice of whether Ukraine should support green energy, traditional energy, I agree with Stefan. It's not a question of good or bad. The question is about preparing for your future energy security and independence and for your economic growth. And on the other side of that is a future of continued dependence and a future of limiting your full potential. The answer should be absolutely yes. Now is the time for Ukraine to invest. And if it's yes, there are reasons why this is the case. First reason being energy security. Second reason being addressing environmental and climate change challenges. And third reason is supporting businesses that will provide new 21st century innovative jobs for your population. And another compelling reason is this question about infrastructure that I think Stefan talked on. Every country has this infrastructure challenge. You have infrastructure that's outdated, where you're looking at how to upgrade it, how to build new infrastructure, because studies have shown that consumption will continue to grow, and populations who want to provide economic opportunities for their population, creating jobs, all require energy, must invest in their infrastructure. There's a saying that I heard once that says, if you don't change direction soon, you will end up where you are headed. And where Ukraine is potentially headed is a path that does not provide for all of its energy needs. Future demand will increase. Will current resources be able to keep up with that growth? Not making the necessary investments now will only lead to further challenges in the future. Energy, as I've said, is a driver of economic growth. Access to energy is as important as access to water, access to finance for your businesses, particularly for countries that want to move from the emerging, developing economies to developed economies. The world's consumption is rising more and more swiftly. And that consumption will continue based on projections by the International Energy Agency to increase even in Ukraine. And with that increase in consumption, where is it coming from? It's coming from emerging markets that want to expand their power infrastructure. It's coming from a growing middle class that's increasing their demands for electricity, for appliances, for computers, televisions, electronics. All these things need energy. These trends, the maturization of emerging markets infrastructure and the rise of the middle class, are two key long-term trends that will affect global growth. and that will affect global demand on energy resources. And it's this global framework that Ukraine must compete in. On the fuel side, if you look at it, there are two sides. There's the fuel transportation side, and then there's the electricity power side. On the fuel side, there is certainly a need for alternatives to oil, whether you're looking at from farming or transportation. And the solutions to those are several-fold. And first, looking at different forms of liquid fuels. And I don't get into the debate about food-based ethanol, because there are many advanced technologies out there that offer alternatives to food-based ethanol. There are non-food-based resources. The technology has advanced dramatically over the last several years. And it's these kinds of technologies that should be supported. And looking at these kinds of small-scale projects can make a difference in local environments for towns that are outside of the city centers where you have developed transmission grids or fuel resources. On the electricity side, government intervention is absolutely needed to transform both the electricity grid and also consumptions. And quickly, just a word about coal. Coal moving forward must take into consideration advancements on pollution control as well as carbon price risk. When you're looking at the true price of green energy compared to traditional energy sources, you have to look at the price that coal will make. In the meetings in Durban this week, the path is being set forward to reduce carbon emissions, and one of those paths is to put a final price on what carbon really costs the environment. So you need alternatives to coal. I'm not saying you don't need coal, I'm saying you need additional alternatives. And you need these alternatives for the similar reasons that you need alternatives for oil, whether it's farming, transportation, telecommunications, healthcare, you name it. And some of the options out there is to support small off-grid technologies that exist that can be applied in very individual buildings. You don't have the question of fitting it into the transmission grid. That's not a challenge you have to deal with when you look at it from standalone systems that can supply all the energy a single business may need, a single operation, a school may need, a healthcare facility may need. The country, Ukraine, needs a national strategy. And this strategy requires government help to help companies in the green technology area compete on their own. They can take the shape of a number of different areas, whereas feed-in tariffs, tax incentives, tax grants, tax credits, loan guarantees. It must be a multi-year support so that businesses can make the right decision about how they should invest going forward. Also, you need quick, fast, bureaucratic reductions of approvals and partnerships between governments, the private sector, governments on the national and regional levels, as well as companies, utilities, and what have you. This is a $2.6 trillion marketplace. And you have countries like China, Korea, EU countries that are instituting policies today that will help them grab more of this market share. It's important that government invest in green energy infrastructure so that all participants can be drawn into the marketplace.
Tracy,
certainly it will cost, but those costs will certainly be worth it. Thank you.